Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Volunteer Voices. We're just welcoming people into the meeting, but we're ready to get started here in just a moment. Volunteer Voices is our opportunity to hear from people who have served with Global Care Force in different parts of the world. My name is Rick Power, and I work in the Global Programs Support area. We're glad you're here to join us for this conversation today with our special guest, James Marcum, who has volunteered with Global Care Force 3 times and intends to return again. We'll find out more about him in just a moment. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping items. We're recording this call for future use, and we'll provide you with the link to the recording. At the end, we'll also make time for questions if you have questions you'd like to ask. So please hold your questions until then. And don't forget to mute your microphone to help us reduce background noise. For those of you who may not be familiar with Global Care Force, we'd like to let you know that who we are and what we do. Global Care Force's purpose is to transform lives through volunteering by connecting our volunteers with organizations serving people in need around the world. Our volunteers serve with respect for other cultures and faiths. Our goal is to continue to provide primary care teams to areas where healthcare needs remain unmet or access to medical care is unavailable. And Global Care Force is a 501c3 registered nonprofit. We send teams to Egypt, Jordan, Ukraine, Gallup, New Mexico, Rosarito and Tijuana, Mexico, and Pacifica in the San Francisco Bay Area. So as I said, we are going to talk with James Marcum today. He is a physician's assistant living in Port Orange, Florida. And I think you'll be very interested to hear his story. Welcome, James. Tell us what made you decide to volunteer with Global Care Force?
Well, it all started right after the war began, and so I began exploring different ways I could help from what I saw on TV with the refugee crisis and how they were having issues in Poland, and they were looking for medical volunteers, basically, and so I looked for about 6 months here and there and was trying to decide whether I should go or not. And then I came across an interview with some people from Global Care Force who had gone, and watched the interview and then did some research, and found you guys on the internet, and it looked like that was something more that I'd be more interested in doing, where we went into the country and stayed for a short while and did clinics around the country serving those who couldn't get to medical help that they needed, and that's how I kind of came involved. And after I did it one time, it's somewhat addictive, and really enjoyed it, and so I just finished up my 3rd trip, just getting back here about 3 weeks ago.
Thank you. We're always honored when people volunteer, even one time with Global Care Force. When they go back multiple times, like you did, that we feel even more honored by that. When you said it was addictive, talk a little bit more about what was it that made you want to go back again and again?
Well, I've been really fortunate. I've been able to practice for over 30 years, and I've worked in the emergency room for much of that, and now I do house calls. I do geriatric care, but when you go out, and help others, and it really gives you a good feeling. It kind of gives you a new insight on why you went into medicine. When you can, give back to others. People in the United States, here, we live in somewhat of a bubble, of course, but we're very fortunate. And then when you get an opportunity to go overseas and just see how, how some of the things are going for people that are, like your parents' age or your grandparents' age, who are really in need of medical care secondary to events that they can't control, and then subjugated to other people's cruelty and things that have happened to them. And so it really is for me it was just kind of a rejuvenating aspect of, or kind of, I'd say, maybe bringing back my interest in staying in the medical profession. And like I said, and that gets to be, it's just a good feeling. And it's nice that you can get back to others who really appreciate that you came all that way to help them, which
Hmm.
many of the Ukrainians were surprised it would come all the way from the United States. And it's really enjoyable for me. I really love it.
Thank you. So, as you said, the situation on the ground in Ukraine is heartbreaking and a lot of suffering there. Can you, tell us a story of someone you met or a situation that really impacted you and that you'll carry with you in the future?
Y- I think it was probably the first year we went, and I think it was when that really had the greatest impact, on how kind of affected how I looked at things. And but it was probably we were there right after the liberation of the Kherson region, and had the opportunity to go into a couple of small villages that had not had any medical care, and that were occupied by the Russian forces, and they'd been under the occupation, for close to 6 months, maybe as long as a year, I'm guessing. And coming into some of these places where the town was almost completely destroyed, and people were living in their basements, and not one family, like, 3, 4 families. And we were the first people to actually go in and offer medical care, and leave them with medications. And the people were just so stunned that we had come, and then that we were leaving them with 30 days of medications, and letting them know that we would be back. The appreciation, that they showed us. And you got to remember that these are people that had nothing, and some of the residents who they just came in to just express to us, they didn't really come in for medical care. They just heard that we were in their town, and they wanted to come in and tell us on, what had gone on during the occupation. And the stories that these people told you, were just heartbreaking. And you got to remember, these people are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and how the Russians had occupied their village, and how they had shot many people in the village. They had subjugated these people to the basements of their homes, and they could only come out an hour a day, and that was usually in the evening. When the Russians left some of the places we were in, they took everything with them. They took the tables, the chairs, they took their washers, of course, they took all the vehicles, their animals, and then what they didn't take, they destroyed. And there was no reason, for this. It was just basic cruelty, to these people. And those things really leave a lasting impact, on you when you hear it from the person who experienced it. And
I'm sure.
and it was really heartbreaking. And then one more real quick story. And so it's this last visit, and it was really interesting. This lady came in to see us, and she was there for post-op follow-up because she had a knee replacement. And I don't know if anyone who's listening, if they follow closely, but she had it done in Kherson City, or Kherson, which is a city right on the front line in the southern part of the country. But she had an orthopedist who did a knee replacement on her, and in one of the hospitals, and they're getting bombed frequently in Kherson by drones and artillery. Well, the hospital she was in after she got her surgery done was hit by a missile or 2 missiles, and they evacuated the whole hospital except for, she said, only like 2 or 3 people were left in the hospital. There was no power, no electric, but she couldn't walk because she just had her knee done. So she stayed in the hospital for a week. I don't know how this woman got food, or who took care of her. She walked out of the hospital, couldn't get a taxi back to her village, and called someone I think in her village who got a taxi to come down and pick her up in the city and brought her back. And so we saw her in clinic for follow-up. And she walked in. It was brilliant, so it just gives you an idea. Hey, listen, if you make do with what you got, and she was upbeat about it and was just happy that she was able to get out of the city back to her village, and she walked in without a crutch or anything, and her knee had healed perfectly. So you
I
just see
didn't
some really kind of
hmm
crazy things that you do not expect to see. So
Yeah. James, we're seeing some pictures here of your time treating patients in Ukraine. If you want to comment on any of these, you can. What's a typical day like for a volunteer when you're on the ground there in Ukraine?
well, it's going to be a long day. You get up early. We always go together as a group to breakfast and kind of have a little small meeting on what to expect, where we're going, how many clinics we're going to do. We usually base out of a city, and then we drive out into the country because most all the places, at least that we went to on this most recent, were all really small villages in the southern part, in the Zaporizhia area, and that's a state, in the southern part of Ukraine. And so we'd get up, have breakfast, talk about what we're going to do. We'd jump in the van, drive anywhere from an hour to 2 hours on to where we're getting to the clinic. We'd go to these really small towns, dirt roads, and there was always a small clinic in every building or every village that we were at, and we would set up clinic. Typically, there were usually a dozen people already waiting for us at each place, and we'd go in and we unload the vans. We carry all our own medications. One of the Ukrainian girls that go with us, she's the pharmacist. If you look in the pictures here, you'll see that the other fella in the light blue jacket, that's Andre. He's my interpreter. So each of us have an interpreter. So that's how we communicate with the patients when they come in. And most of these places we've already been there several times, so we have records of their previous visits. And the people come in, they sit patiently, they wait, they bring them back one at a time. We go through their medical history, see what they're in for. Many times it's prescription refill, blood pressure management, the usual stuff you see in the States. I mean, nothing crazy. And when we talk to them, examine them. They come in with vital signs. We check them. They get a urine analysis before they come in. And then we review that, go over their meds, give them refills, or make some adjustments in their medications. I think in this last visit, I was talking with Brenda, and notable changes we'd seen with the first year I went. Blood pressures were just crazy high. It was unbelievable how high some of the blood pressures these people walked in with, and blood sugars that were quite high. But we had a lot of really good control this time. Didn't really have to make a lot of medication adjustments, and we saw a large number of people, and most, I'd say 90% of these people were seen by us previous on more than one visit. So it's nice to see that we're making an impact here, with medication management, blood pressure, diabetes control, and so you're starting to see kind of the results of us going back, repetitively, and taking care
Right.
of many of the same residents. So it was,
hmm
yeah, it was really a positive, you know.
Good. Thank you. As you mentioned, one of these young men in the picture is your translator. The team uh, includes the volunteers from the United States or other countries, as well as the local team members who might be drivers, translators, or even Ukrainian physicians. So you have a team of, 10 or 12 people. Talk to us about the relationships that are formed there. I imagine you take some very close friendships out of this experience.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you'd have to be very antisocial not to. It's, you know what I mean? Like for instance, like Andre. Andre is 20. 21 now, I think, 22. So he just finished his bachelor's for physical therapy. He's going in for his master's. But, I met Andre when he was 18, and we talk all the time. Actually, we have a lot of things in common, that we talk about. And but with you spend a lot of time with everyone, and everyone really gets along. It's we're all there for a common cause. They appreciate that we're there. We appreciate that they're helping us, because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Andre and without Dr. Lev and Luba working in the pharmacy, and them doing their we wouldn't be able to function without them. We would and then we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we sit around at night and eat watermelon and talk about things, and and there's always really good discussions, and because they're
Hmm.
always asking on what's happening in the States, and we talk about soccer and all sorts of the usual stuff, that
Right.
that everyone talks about. But some of the people you see in the picture here, and I've known for the last couple of years, and they were kind of young kids when we first met them. So now they're all adults,
Hmm.
and they have their careers now, and now they're donating their time. Like the two people in the middle, the tall fellow Eugene, he just finished up his degree in medicine. He's a doctor. The girl to the left, she just finished her degree. She's a psychiatrist. So now they're donating their time, and coming along with the group and helping us, as well. So it's kind of nice to see them move through their life and become successful as well, even with everything that's going on around them.
Hmm.
Life still
Yes.
goes on,
Right.
so.
That's a great picture. Um, what would you say, James, to someone who's considering volunteering with Global Care Force? What words of encouragement?
Well, I would say that these opportunities don't come around often. It's I won't lie to you. It's the traveling it's long. It takes you a while to get to Kyiv. And the work is busy. The time goes by fast. You see a really large part of the country. While you're there for those 2 weeks or a little longer, a little over 2 weeks. So you do a lot of traveling. You see, it's it's it really changed my perspective on things, on what I have here in the United States. After
Hmm.
COVID, I was really burned out working, in medicine, and was seriously thinking about, maybe calling it quits and going on to do something else, part time or whatever. But
Hmm.
doing this really kind of rejuvenated me into, gave me a much more positive outlook on working in medicine, and staying in. But I mean, if you're thinking about it, just go ahead and sign up and start raising your money and just commit to going. It's exciting, it's fun, it's very fulfilling, and it's nice to give back. You studied all those years in medicine, and so it's nice to give back to others that really truly deserve it. And like I said, it really it just makes you feel better, about yourself and why you went into medicine,
Hmm.
and it'll definitely give you a different perspective on how we live here in the States, and and how blessed we are. I mean, we really live in a great country, and we're very fortunate, and to see how the Ukrainians take this in every day. I mean, it's with the missile attacks and the air raid alerts every night, and some of the towns you go through that have been destroyed, and the damage, and it really makes you really makes you look at the world differently. So
Thank
it,
you.
it's been positive. I'd do it. If you're thinking about it, you should do it. Yes, just do
Thank
it.
you. Um, there are many fine organizations that are serving in Ukraine and other countries, and we're honored to be partners with them. Is there anything you would say about Global Care Force and the impact that it's making and why you have chosen to continue to volunteer with them.
I think the biggest thing is, is they go back repetitively. They don't
Mhm.
go every 6 months. They're there, every 30 days. Or every 30 to 60 days now, I think. They go, we go prepared. We go with medications. We leave them with enough medications to get them through. It's just like in the States, where okay, we'll see you back in 60 days and see how you're doing, with the follow-up appointment. The medicine is, it's continuous, these people, they know you're coming. They look forward to you coming. They bring us stuff all the time, chocolate bars and all sorts of stuff, and they're appreciative. But the impact has been, I think it really tells them that, that they're not forgotten, and
Mhm.
that people are, that we will be coming back. And I think that that's a big problem. That's a big issue with
Mhm.
them. And sorry, my phone keeps going off. Um, oh God, I hope you can't hear that. My phone's bleeding through. But so that's about it.
Yeah.
It's a big impact that you make on people on the other side of the world that you would probably never meet or see.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have a few minutes here. If anyone who's listening live to the program would like to ask a question of James, feel free. We'll take a moment here to see if there are any questions.
A small question.
Yes, go ahead.
What is something that you find struggling about going over there? Like, is it just the emotional toll it can take, or is there anything that's difficult?
Well, yeah. That's a really good question. So it's, you won't come back unaffected. Because of just what you see and the people you talk to, and the air raid alerts at night that wake you up at 2 a.m. Those kind of the things leave a lasting impression on you. With that. Um, for me, the biggest struggle, you're going to laugh. It wasn't the medicine or anything. It's the train trip from Eastern Poland to Kyiv. It's a long trip. It's hard. That was kind of like my biggest struggle. The traveling is hard, getting there and coming back. It's a long way to go. It's a big country, and you can't fly in. Everything's done by train, and so, but work-wise, you're so busy, it goes so quick, but the struggle really is, you go there for a reason, but you come back knowing that you really did something important.
Hmm. Thank you, Victoria, for that question. Any others have a
Thank
question
you.
for James and Marcum? Go ahead and speak up if you have a question. If you're considering becoming a volunteer with Global Care Force, the process is really very simple. You just need to complete the online application, and then we will set up an interview with you. And on your screen, we provided a QR code that will take you to the registration form. And if you're a qualified candidate, you'll be asked to submit the required forms, and then we will begin a screening and credentialing process. So if you or someone you know is interested, if you have further questions, please reach out to us directly. You can visit our website, follow us on social media, and we hope this interview has left you with a better understanding of Global Care Force and answered your questions about our volunteer opportunities and experiences.
After the tone, please record your name and then press pound.
So as I mentioned, we'll follow up with an email to provide a link to this recording, a link to the volunteer application, and a volunteer contact email
Please wait.
information.
You are now joining the meeting.
Again, thank you for joining us today for Volunteer Voices, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.